Good morning. I thought we'd take a look at a Parallax football team from the book. This is one of the 6 teams in the fictional league that comes with the book, the Calgary Rustlers. They chose to use the 27 points to purchase their grades as opposed to a random roll to determine their strength. They are coached by Billy Clement. He is a run-the-ball coach. His D6 before every snap dictates whether he runs or passes. Obviously weighted toward running versus passing. So this is rolled at the snap of every ball, despite down and distance. Defense is based always on down and distance. You could, of course, customize defensive coaching tendencies too. So the teams are rated for offense. There's 3 values. There's passing. This would consider your offensive line, your quarterback, and your receivers as a unit. So passing could be seen as your quarterback mostly, but it would be the combination of how the team's working together to pass the ball. Running would be considered basically your offensive line and whoever's carrying the football. This is a running ability. And then receiving, this is how well your receivers, including your backs, slot receivers, tight ends, everybody is working in the open field. And mostly dictates how much yards is earned per catch. So you're going to find passing is going to dictate whether you complete passes, throw interceptions, get sacked. And receiving is going to dictate, if it's caught, how far downfield the ball will gain, right? Running will literally dictate the line of scrimmage at the point of attack, how well your backs and offensive linemen create yardage. Okay, so that means every team has a defense that you're matching up against. RS is run stuff. This would be technically the front 4, front 3. Ultimately, front 7's ability to focus on stopping the run. Linebackers are literally used against the passing grade to determine whether the passing lanes are open and whether the pressure is significant enough to make it more difficult to complete passes, etc. So you're going to always match up passing versus a defense's linebackers. When you run, you're going to match your running grade against their run stuff grade. And when a ball is completed, you're going to check your receivers versus the coverage. The coverage is what's going to slow down receivers or cut off yards after catch, etc. Okay, so when you drop back to pass, the first thing you'll do is check pass versus linebackers. And you're going to have this pre-game, you're going to have all the grades you need, so you don't have to do this every time. So before a game starts, you're going to determine your pass ability versus the linebackers. That's going to give you a grade for the game. You're going to determine your ability to run versus their run stuff. That'll be your grade for the game. And you're going to determine your completions, which is your receiver versus their coverage for the game. Those will never change once the game starts. Run defense, base defense, and pass defense affect the charts and the results separate from your matchups for the game. So you're going to get all your matchups before you start the game. Once you have those matchups, those will never change, right? Same with special teams. They are stagnant. So your punter versus your return man, the opposite team return man, will give the return man a kickoff net for the game and a punt return net, a punt net for the game, and vice versa. So when you kick off, it's the place kicker and the other team's return man will give you a kick return for the game. And punt versus the other team's return man will give you your net punt for the game. They're stagnant kickoffs and punts. Place kicking is versus yardage, yard line. So your place kicker's ability to kick field goals from a spot on the field is how you match that. And that you'll have to check during the game. Everything else before game can be written down as your pre-game matchups. So all you have to do is look at the right charts for those teams during those moments. Place kicking, you're going to have to look up every time you're in a different yard line for the kick. Then every team has a basic roster with allocation. So when I run the ball, let's say this team runs the ball, and I roll the offensive die, the defensive die, and I roll a third die for who would get the allocation carry. So if I'm tracking stats, this particular team only has 3 key runners. You can set your rosters any way you want using percentile dice, D10s. Again, I always build my games if they use a particular die for the main engine. I want to stick with that die for everything. So the teams that come in the game, D6 is the allocation die. So let's say I run the ball, and let's say my team's a B, their team's a D, and let's say we're a B for the game, and I roll a run, and they roll base, and my allocation die is 4. Wilson gets the carry. I would look on the appropriate run chart for the yardage, and because they're in a base defense, I would subtract 1 yard from that result. So the base defense would actually, the base defense is a safe, it's a pretty good defense as it takes yardage off both run and pass. Run defense affects the actual charts, numbers. The pass defense actually affects the chart numbers. Base defense actually affects yardage. So if you don't want to get caught in the wrong defense, then you can stay in a base defense, and that'll negatively affect rushes and pass yardage. So it's just a safe way to kind of minimize yardage, but you can't really flip the script on turnovers or big plays, right? But if you're in the right defense, you can really affect turnovers and big plays. If you're in a base defense, you will at least have an effect against the runs and passes. Obviously, if they're completed, I mean, if it's passes incomplete, then the yardage effect for base defense won't affect passing. Okay, you still have to complete the pass. So my point is, I would roll the ball. Let's say it's a 4-yard run, and I rolled Wilson, and they're in a base, so it'd be a 3-yard run. Wilson would run the ball for 3, 2nd and 7. Now we're in still a normal situation, 2nd and 7. Let's say I roll a pass. Let's say I roll a 5, and for them I roll a base defense. And let's say C versus their D. We're on the C charts, and it is a completion. And then I would roll to see who's catching this pass, and then I would check to see the D66 completion range. Let's say it's a 7-yard catch, but they're in a base defense -2, it'd be a 5-yard catch. That would make it 3rd and 2. So now we're in a short yardage situation, 3rd and 2. Again, I won't change my coaching tendencies, but the defense is going to use short yardage. Let's say I roll a run, and I roll a run defense. Now we're going to be changing potential chart ratings, and I won't go into that here. You'll have to buy and read the rules to understand how run affects the charts. But anyway, 3rd and 2, you can see how the game works. And again, you would roll a 3rd die if you care to determine who's getting the catches, the runs, the sacks, interceptions by linebackers, interceptions by coverage men. And then you've got, of course, just the name of your punter, your place kicker, and your return man, which are rated up here. Punter, place kicker, return man. Again, passing includes the whole how the team does this thing as a unit. Quarterbacks, offensive linemen, and a route running, right? A running is going to be assuming backs and blockers at the point of attack. And then receivers are going to be what they do when they get the ball in their hands versus coverage men. Linebackers, literally in the middle of the field, are going to adversely or positively affect your ability to find an open lane or an open target. Or you could assume this is pressure on the quarterback, or or lack thereof. If you're running the ball, they drop into coverage, something like that. And then run stuff is just clearly how well your team stops the run. Linebacker, of course, dictates really pass completion effect upon the quarterbacks, and then coverage affects how well they get yardage downfield. So that's the Parallax football game in a nutshell. And this is what a team would look like. All you need for a game to make for your teams is you're going to name them and roll up their points, or use the point by 27-point value, which is average. And that's all you need to play is offense, defense, special teams. The rest of this is for details and if you want to have rosters of players, etc. But what you really need, very simply, is the name of the team, their value, and their tendency. Do they run the ball? Are they balanced? Are they pass the ball? And their coaching tendency. You don't even need a head coach name. And then, of course, your ratings that'll be matched up pregame. And then again, on your score sheet, you'll know what you're rolling for for passing plays and the completions, and for running plays. Before you even start the game, you'll know which charts you're using for each team. So you don't have to always check these numbers. These matchups. It tells you, it walks you right through it. Anyway, so that gives you an idea of what Parallax football looks like. All right. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.